All right, nerds. I'm here with Rishi Kumar, who I had on the show 2 years ago when he was running for Congress. Didn't make it that time, but he's back at it, and he's a top two candidate in my home district. So I'm not only here as a interviewer, but I'm a potential future constituent of yours, Rishi. So welcome back to the show, and hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds. It's great to be back. Looking forward, Tom, to a good conversation.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how the last campaign went and how you decided to go after it again and how things are looking.
Well, obviously we fell short, but we had a historic performance, and we did better than any challenger from the last 30 years against an incumbent who had been in office for 28 years. It's not very easy when you challenge the establishment, but we are up to it. And we felt that we could make it happen this time around.
Hmm.
And that's why we are giving it a go. And what happens is like a startup. The first couple of years you are struggling trying to find your bearing, and we got it together by towards the end of the race in 2020. We had sort of figured out a few components, and we said, okay, now let's run as perfect as a race we can for the next take two 2022 is what we called it.
Hmm.
And we ran the best campaign of my life. I mean, I've been part of 10, 11 campaigns, and this last campaign in the June election was absolutely the best. We had knocked on 200,000 doors, sent out many mailers, many text messages, talking to people about the issues. And we believe we have really turned a corner because the incumbent has fallen below 50%, which is
Mm-hmm.
very alarming for somebody who's been in office for 30 years.
Yeah.
And more people voted against the incumbent than supported the incumbent. So we believe we have an excellent chance in November, and we are pushing it really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess if everybody who voted for all the other people, now that it's down to the top two, you and the incumbent, if they come over to your side, you might have a victory in your hands.
Yes, and what is very striking is that the incumbent has always, the average was like 66%, the high was like 72%, never quite fallen below.
Mm.
But the reason why is because we are calling out the issues that matter. For example, we are talking about the corruption in politics, the
Mm-hmm.
big money that is subverting the interest of the American people, the inability of our legislators to not do anything, to be there for decades, but only have trivial policy bills to speak of. And the problem with this is, Tom, you know it. It takes a challenger to get in there and to start talking about it, very similar to what
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Yang did.
Mm-hmm.
I saw his tweet this morning. He's cutting to the chase and calling things out. And what happens is the light bulb turns on in people's head. I'm like, right, why did I see this before? This is really what we have done. I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm a geek. I don't believe in like smear campaigns. We're just calling out the issues, the failure of politicians staying too long, doing very little, but also selling out. And that's the nature of what's going on in our district. And that's the reason why, Tom, we're going to win now.
Rishi, what would be some things that you would do or advocate for that would be different than what the incumbent is going for?
Firstly, I stand for Medicare for all. I believe it's a very, very important thing. The incumbent does not support Medicare for all. And in fact, the incumbent is actually privatizing, is pushing for the ACO REACH program, which is privatizing Medicare. That is actually putting the healthcare of seniors in jeopardy. I don't support that. I believe we cannot turn over the health of our seniors to Wall Street. We need to protect our seniors, and that's a key component of my agenda, the Medicare for all, but also I'm against the ACO REACH. Secondly, I'm for term limits. We need to bring term limits in every aspect of American politics because this is what is truly wrong. I mean, I'll call her Dianne Feinstein. She'll be 92 years old when her term expires,
Mm.
and this is a travesty. We need to bring some young blood who are willing to roll up their sleeves, be in the trenches, and fix things. Number three, number three is the big money in politics. You know, we have always rejected the PAC money, the special interest group money, because my run is about ethics in politics. And there are many like me in the country who are running. Unfortunately, they have a difficult time raising money because we reject the PAC money, special interest group money. We rely only upon people. But The thing is, people tell me, Rishi, how will you do it alone? But my take is this: if someone like me gets a chance, when we get in there, slowly and gradually, we will change American politics. Then you look at the regional challenges we have here with the burglaries, with transportation, traffic, housing. Those are key components of my agenda. And then finally, when you look at the global issue we have here with climate change. So those are elements that define what I seek to do when we get to Washington, D.C. next year.
Well, they sound, I would agree with you. Those are all high priority topics. Do you feel like where you would land? I mean, you mentioned that the incumbent issue is not pro Medicare for all. On the other topics, do you feel like you are advocating for different solutions, or is it more the approach to the advocacy that would be different? Just help people understand the how Congressman Kumar would be different.
Yes, absolutely. So I already talked about number one. Let's talk about
Hmm.
term limits. I don't think so. Anna Eshoo supports term limits. I haven't seen her talk
Clearly,
about it. If there
yeah.
is something, Tom, please enlighten me. Okay, number
Hmm.
three, we talk about big money in politics. She is the number one recipient of pharma money in the US Congress, in the lower house, number one in the whole country, while chairing the House Health Subcommittee. That's a conflict of interest right there. You are in charge of America's healthcare, but you get a lot of pharma money. And the legislation she has proposed has actually increased the price of healthcare by protecting the industry, by increasing patent protection from 5 years to 12 years, and legislations like that are actually influenced from pharma. I would never play that game. So that's a key differentiation. Let's talk about the regional issues with housing, homelessness, traffic. Congressman Eshoo has fallen short because she hasn't done a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of activity in the last decades that we have seen to address these types of challenges. You look at the late Norm Mineta. He was an amazing legislator right here as a congressman, and he became our transportation secretary. And he had some monumental legislation when it came to traffic and transportation and all those things, bringing in money to the Bay Area. We need to see more of that. And finally, on climate, I called it out in the debate in 2020. I said, look, Congressman Eshoo, you actually supported the rebate for the fossil fuel industry. I would not do that. Congressman Eshoo said that, look, I have co-sponsored the Green New Deal. That was like as a source of achievement. And what we responded back is, I'm sorry, the Green New Deal had hundreds of co-sponsors. Please tell us, what bills have you done? So on
Mm.
all five counts, Tom, we are absolutely different. It's like night and day between me, between my policies, between my run, the energy, the ideas, the innovation, the approach, the framework we seek to bring in comparison to Congressman Eshoo.
How do you what's your strategy to get the word out? Because one thing that Congress Congressman Eshoo has is she has name recognition. She's been there forever. I somehow get text messages and voicemails from her automated systems all the time as a person who lives in her district. It's like a well-oiled machine. And I heard someone say, "Oh, well, Congressman Eshoo knows the name of everybody's dog, and she knows all the donors and all the key power brokers, and she's friends with the Speaker of the House." How do you plan to kind of overcome this juggernaut?
Yep, it takes two runs sometimes. And we look at Ro Khanna, he took two runs.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the nature when it's almost seems like the party machinery is against you when you challenge an incumbent who's been there for decades.
Mm.
And, it becomes difficult. I'm not kidding you. It's very hard. It takes fearlessness. It takes courage to do that. And they call me the tankman of Tiananmen Square in Saratoga. And because we have stood tall in against certain issues that I believe would be very dangerous for my city, for Silicon Valley, and for our country. I'm a tech guy, as you know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here to become a career politician or to make a living. The tech industry has been very well for me. The only reason why I'm jumping into the world of politics, not yet full time, but the only
Mm-hmm.
reason I'm jumping in is to see how we can fix some of these big challenges. And obviously, this is the fourth year of a run, and as you can tell, Anna Eshoo has dropped below 50%. So people start believing in your message. People start believing for the even when I ran for the first time in 2020 during the March primary elections, I heard from people in Saratoga, like from other sources, that well, Rishi's just sort of dabbling in this. He may not be
Mhm.
serious. But now they see me back running a second run, and they're like,
Mhm.
okay, now this guy's serious, and we have really put together a pretty solid campaign. Our messaging is concise, precise, it's crisp, and we are basically knocking on doors, meeting people, as many people as we can, having town hall meetings, and running a good, solid campaign, which is what it takes. And we have figured things out, like I say, and it's going to be a good story in November.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the trend, I think the last time she had 60% of the vote, and now she's dropped to under 50. And in the primary, when she had 60%, she kind of got around, around that or a little more in the general. So this is a encouraging opportunity. You might be in striking distance, Rishi,
We
which is
believe we
exciting.
are. We
Yeah.
certainly believe we are. And we have looked at a lot of trends and data
Mm-hmm.
in other races. And what we notice is a pattern where the percentage from the primary election is essentially repeated in the general election with, like, 1.5% margin of error. So
Right.
today, Congressman Eshoo is below 48%, like 47.8 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we believe we are within striking distance, but we have to push it really hard, and we are looking for support. There are two types of support we need. One is we are looking to raise money. Obviously, Anna Eshoo gets a lot of the PAC money, the special interest group money. We have to keep up with that. And
Mm-hmm.
then secondly, we are looking for volunteers. We are running a pretty good solid campaign. It's very interesting, Tom. Like in the last month, I think in the month of February, in the February to April time frame, May time frame, we have gotten like a lot of volunteers who have joined us. And now this month of June has been our best month,
Mm.
because people are like, "Oh my God, look at this guy! He made it again." And now when we look at the data, they're like, "This guy, like you say, he's got a shot." So new
Yeah.
volunteers are joining us. We are quite blessed. We feel very lucky.
Let me share with the audience my screen to look at some of the numbers that we're talking about. So, what you see here is in 2020, in the primary, she got 61, and there you are, Rishi. You were top two with 16. And then in the general, she got just a couple points, like 1.5 points more, 63. So to your point, there's a strong kind of mapping of whatever she got in the primary, she kind of gets it in the general.
And if you
And
notice the numbers, Tom, we
mhm.
actually gained a huge percentage of votes from the primary to the general
Yes,
in comparison to Anna Eshoo. We gained tremendously.
yes, 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 for sure. You got most of the non-issue vote for clearly. It's not like someone didn't vote for her in the primary and suddenly decided to come over to her in the general.
What we say is
Yeah.
this: that if somebody decides not to support an incumbent who's been there for 30 years,
Right,
they
right.
will very unlikely go back.
Yes, yes, that makes sense. And here's this year, just recently, she got 47.9, so didn't break the 50. And of course, we will have the general in November. But you could argue, well, shoot, what would happen if the 52% who didn't vote for Eshu went with Mr. Kumar? That could be an interesting story to tell, right?
We don't
um,
know how it's going to play out, Tom. We truly
mm,
don't know. We have seen a pattern in the data, and what we believe in is put in the hard work, do everything you can to make sure that pattern repeats. And we
yeah.
would like to keep Eshu about the 45% level, that percentage, which will make it a little easier for us. We don't want it to be a nail biter for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like right now the general trend or the my sense is that people are kind of ready for new faces. Not just in Congress, like even when you think about 2024, like I don't know many of us are super excited about another Biden Trump kind of offer. And I think Congressman Eshoo, I'm sure, has done great work over the years, but she's been in there for decades now, right? She's been there for a while.
That's right. I mean, she
Yeah.
first got into office 1978. She got into Congress 1992. So
Mm.
she's been there for a long time. I knock on doors daily. I spend 3 hours knocking on doors daily, talking to people, because this is very, very important for me to understand it from the people. And we have been hearing from Democrats. They tell me, Rishi, we want new blood. I
Yeah.
didn't hear this in 2019. I didn't hear this in
Mm.
2020. I've been hearing it all of 2021 and all of 2022. So there's something that has shifted recently.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Tell me about you're talking about you're looking for volunteers and donors. What do you think will be some of the kind of campaign strategies or tactics that are going to be useful to you, where people can participate, or where will the money go if people donate?
So, essentially, we need help with social media. We need help with the communication pieces, with researching policies. We also look for we have divided up our canvassing operations into different components. We need leaders to drive those strategies, to push that with a volunteer team. And here is the interesting part: we don't have a single paid staffer. Everybody is volunteer driven.
Hmm.
And they come because they believe in the cause, the purpose of the ethics and politics of what we need to make, how we need to make change happen right here in Silicon Valley and in America. So a lot of the young population, the youth from high school and college, they join our internship program. In 2020, we had 1,000 interns. They came from 29 states. We were quite blessed to have them.
Mm.
And we continue recruiting. We interview them. Not everybody gets in, but they apply for an internship program online. A lot of the local high school students are looking for opportunities in the summer, and high school students have a difficult time with internships because there are not too many for them. But now,
Hmm.
when you look at how we have changed the admission process in the UCs, the SATs and ACTs are not so relevant in comparison to a good solid essay for which you need to
Hmm.
show leadership. And when they join our program, they are getting well versed with the issues of the community, and they are getting involved with the simple issues that are happening right around them in their city. And this is how they can write powerful essays. It's a win-win because we are creating empowerment for them, and they are actually bringing some great ideas for us. And it's a beautiful story playing out. Then also, when you look at the fundraising, we reject,
Hmm.
like I said, we don't take any money from corporate entities. We only rely upon people. And so far, it's very interesting, Tom. Someone like me, we have spent more than $1 million in the last 3 years, and all each and every penny came from people.
Hmm.
Each and every penny came from people. So it is possible. People tell me, Rishi, it's impossible. Can you change your philosophy? Start accepting the pack money. Go down that route. I want you to win. And what we tell them is plain and simple. No, I don't think so. You know, this run is about integrity in politics. We will do everything we can, our utmost, to preserve that, and which means we will not sell out ever. So what
Yeah.
we ask is go to the website at rishikumar.com and make a contribution. We would truly appreciate that.
I love it. Yeah, and I don't think you're listed on my nonprofit of the people.us, but I'll add you there so
Thank you.
people can discover you there as well and approval vote you if they like what they see and like what they're hearing. Let's talk a little bit about current events while you're here. Obviously, today's a big day. You had Roe v. Wade overturned. We are kind of in the day 6 of, or just finished day 5 of the January 6th hearings. Got a war in Europe, very high inflation and gas prices. What's your sense of the state of things right now?
So lots of issues. Let's focus on the one from today.
Mm.
And I believe with the Roe versus Wade ruling, California is seemingly safe, but it's jeopardizing women all across the country. And I looked at Andrew Yang's tweet this morning, and he basically called out the failure
Mm.
of the Democrats in legislating this. He called out the failure of, we have a lot of respect for Ruth Gator Ginsburg,
Hmm.
and what he was calling out was the fact that could she have left, and Obama could have found a replacement. Currently, it's three appointments by President Trump that has led to a 6-3 majority. And all of this is exploding in our face. And you know what? It's dividing up the country. When you look at the judicial system, it's a non-partisan system. But unfortunately, are they playing politics? I believe there is politics in scope happening there. And it's going to continue to divide the country. Right now, the biggest threat we have is also a civil war, because the two sides, someone told me the other day, an elected official, I haven't seen the country divided to the extent we are today. And
Hmm.
all this is stoking the flames of hatred and division. And we need to get beyond that. We need to come together as a country, because we are not the blue states, we are not the red states, we are the United States. It's not about going left or right, it's about going forward. We need to come together. And this is what we need to fix together. When you look at the Roe versus Wade ruling, it's basically going to be a huge problem for women, but it comes from the failure of Democrats. And even Speaker Pelosi got some flack today, because if you read the news article published by the Chronicle in the city, they have talked about how she read a poem, and then the call to action was donate to DCCC. No, I think this is calling out the failures of our political leaders. They are essentially gaming the system by putting people against people. They keep getting reelected again and again, and they get a paycheck. So that's my take. I mean, this is an absolute failure of our system here. We can do a lot better. And to some extent, what we need to do is we need to get the type of leaders that our forefathers had talked about. To get a farmer, a blacksmith, a teacher, a postmaster, to get them to be in office for a few years, serve 2 terms, 3 terms, and then they call it quits, go back to their day jobs. We need to get back to that. This will restore some very important fundamental changes to our democracy.
Yeah. How do you feel about the logistics of that? If you got over the line, how does that even work? Would you fly back and forth every week, or how does that work from California to be a representative all the way out in DC?
Oh, it's you fly out on Monday night, take the red eye, and then you're back Thursday evening.
Mm,
And I believe in working with the people of our district. So I'll be spending a lot of time as much as possible. So I've seen some legislators, they put up shop there and they spend time in Washington, because that world of politics is a lot more glamorous. My intent is to work to address the challenge of the people of my district. So we plan to spend a lot of time here too.
yeah. And what's your sense of the economy? We're seeing here in Silicon Valley some layoffs starting to happen, hiring slowing down, concurrently prices are going up. What do you think there's anything the government can or should do about this, or is it more, ride out the cycle?
So I think there is a lot the government can do. There's a lot, and I don't think so we are doing enough. And Elizabeth Warren called out the failures of Jerome Powell, and essentially there is a lot of inaction that is playing out. You look at our taxes. We are talking about in California for the gasoline. We're talking about $400 rebate, and they want to give it to every person in California. I don't even drive a gasoline car, and I'll get $400. So, and this is going back to the stimulus. We pumped a lot of money into the economy, and some states didn't want the money also. And this is playing out havoc right now with inflation. We have a supply chain crisis. Nobody sees it coming. And to some extent, I believe there are many leaders in Washington who are asleep on the wheel. And Anna Eshoo is a prime example. After 30 years, you look at the other failures with Roe versus Wade, with the rulings of the Supreme Court, with inflation, gasoline, with the economic crisis that is brewing, with the monetization of people's privacies. We need able leaders to step up and actually do something, do anything, which is what I've done as an elected leader of my city. When there's a problem, you step up and take charge, because you may not know how you want to proceed forward, but you at least try something, and you will find that the results can be pretty radical. Got me reelected with the most votes in 64 years of my city.
Well, let's take that as an example, the rising gas prices. If you were in Congress, 10 years ago, like, what do you think you would have advocated for that would have affected this situation? Because a lot of people would say, like, hey, it's a world market, there's a war. we don't control OPEC. You know, what could we have done better?
For one, I think it's a little late now today to be pushing the green technology because people are hurting.
Mm,
And somebody is spending like $140 on a in like every day or two commuting from Mountain House to Silicon Valley. So the immediate action to do is take out the taxes, take out the fees. There is apparently a surcharge in California that nobody knows where it is going, and we need to address these types of issues and turn the money over to the people. We need to cut these things off. So that's the immediate action that we need to take. We need to 10 years ago, what would I have done
mm-hmm,
is I would say almost 10 years ago we had the electric vehicles coming out with Elon's Tesla.
mm-hmm,
And what we could have done is push for what I would have done is to create an incentive model to have a lot more electric vehicles in our country, much cheaper ones, at the, let's say, the 20,000, $30,000 price tag. We look at an EV, it doesn't have an engine. So essentially what you're doing is it's a lot more economical because you have to change the brakes, you have to change the tires pretty much, and sometimes the electronics. So it creates a wonderful framework for the common man to drive these types of vehicles. This is the one thing I would have pushed for,
mm.
to make sure that this goes viral in terms of adoption and creating the infrastructure and the grid that is needed for that. Get away from gasoline fueled cars. But we have a policy on that, rishikumar.com/inflation. So we have a plan, and we would like to see how we can get that going next year.
I love it. One thing that you mentioned is you referenced Andrew Yang a couple times. Have you thought about um, reaching out and asking for the Forward Party's endorsement of your campaign, and maybe they can send some volunteers and help you get over the line?
Yeah, that's a great thought. We would love to do that. Actually, we haven't done that in the primary election. There were 8 people running, and we were actually quite stressed out with so many good people running. And that
Right.
was democracy at work. Now
Yeah.
this is the time to reach out and see how we can talk to somebody out there in New York and see how we
Yeah.
can create some bridges.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very competitive primary. We had Greg Tanaka on the show a few weeks ago. I thought he was a very impressive candidate and
Oh
had a lot of
yes,
energy. And so
yeah.
hopefully some of the folks will move over from the Tanaka camp to the Kumar camp. Um, I think you might be an interesting race for the Forward Party because they're big fans of more competition and shaking things up. And you don't seem like a super partisan, like party over everything kind of person. I mean, I know you're a registered Democrat, as am I, but you seem open, especially with term limits. I think the Forward Party is also a big fan of like open primaries, which obviously we kind of have here already, and ranked choice voting, like more innovations in how we pick people. So hopefully, the good news is there's an audience of the Nerds for Humanity show that overlaps a lot with the Forward Party. So if you're watching this on replay and you like this guy, Mr. Kumar, who has a very good shot at unseating a multi-decade incumbent who is slipping from term to term in terms of popularity. Who knows? That would be kind of an exciting development. Anything else that we haven't talked about, Rishi, that we should hit before we wrap up? It's been great to have you back on the show and catch up, and so excited as a potential constituent to chat with my future representative.
Well, I really appreciate your invitation, Tom. And when we looked at it in 2019, uh, when we started exploring this run, it seemed like a really, really difficult run.
Hmm.
But the one thing that was we looked at as a very important issue was the whole sellout to pharma that we observed, Anna Eshoo. And we said, this is not right. If the incumbent was had a good ethical approach to politics, we would probably never have jumped into this race. The thing is, there are very good reasons why we jumped into the race. It started with all the pharma money that You look at the price of healthcare in this country, it's the price for insulin, the same quantity, same manufacturer, is about $700 in the United States. It's $67 in Mexico. There are kids who are dying in this country because of lack of healthcare. The parents have to pick between food, housing, and healthcare. We are the most powerful nation in the world, and that then you add to that a million deaths due to the opioid crisis. That's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. A million deaths in the last 20 years. And many politicians turn a blind eye because it's a cesspool out there in Washington, a nexus between politicians and the special interest groups, and they are selling the American people high and dry. We need to bring in the right type of leadership. The thing is, a lot of people tell me, they say, I cannot believe you saying that Anna Eshoo is pushing for the privatization of Medicare. And we say, go to rishikumar.com/Medicare. This is going to jeopardize our seniors. It's a fact. Please look at the data. So, Tom, I leave you with this one thing. We cannot be like an ostrich with our head in the sand, ignoring the data, ignoring the truth. And we elect the same type of leaders who are selling the country high and dry every 2 years or every 4 years or every 6 years. We need to have a change because America is in a huge jeopardy today. You can see all the issues that you talked about, Tom. We need real solutions. We need leaders to step up with energy, with integrity, and fix them. We are running to win. We are running to serve with integrity, and we will do our utmost to fix the crisis that is brewing right now. Thank you so much, Tom.
I love it, Rishi. I really hope you have a victory in November. And if you're ever knocking on doors in Palo Alto, make sure you bring me an extra sign. I'm happy to put it in the front yard. Let me wrap with one last question. As you know, coming from the private sector, a lot of performance and accountability comes with setting goals. So if I imagine that you win and 2 years from now, you're running for reelection, what are some of the things that we should hold you accountable for doing in your first term to know that you would deserve another couple of years?
So that's a very interesting question because I'll go back to my city council analogy. When I was running, I said, look, we want to boost the businesses, we want to stop the burglaries. I would like to see how we can stop the water company from increasing water rates. I would like to see how we can have better roads. Those were like maybe like 10 different policies or agenda items that we had. For my first 4 years, we primarily did two things, and it was very data driven. So there were burglaries happening, and our burglaries had gone up 100% over 4 or 5 years. I said, let's see if I can drop our burglaries, because when somebody's homes are broken into, they cannot sleep for like 6 months. They feel very violated. That feeling is very, very bad. And we said, let's figure out how we can drop burglaries. And after spending 2 years on that, we dropped burglaries by 50%. Actually, it went down from 47% to be precise. It has stayed at that level. Now, when it came, I could have done a variety of different things. And I said, let's look at the water company, because they were exploiting people. San Jose Water Company. Their profits had gone from $22 million to $52 million in a drought. They supply water to 1 million people, and they had applied surcharges. They were raking it in like a bandit. I said, let me do that. Even today, Tom, I happen to be the only elected leader from 6 cities that's been battling them, and we have rejected 9 of the water rates. So now, when I went back to the people after my 4-year term, I said, look, I have managed to do only 2 things, just 2 things. And I believe in focus because I have a full-time day job also. But, I believe in focus, and I've put on addressing the burglaries. Here is the data on that. The sheriff department has released the numbers. We have dropped burglaries by 47%. And they had all seen my work because I was having over 100 neighborhood meetings talking about crime and all that. They all knew what I was up to because I was engaging with people, talking to them. Then I said, we have rejected 5 water rate increases from San Jose Water Company that had never been tried ever before. And these are the only 2 things I've done, but I would be very honored to have your vote as part of our re-election effort. We won with the greatest number of votes in 64 years. The focus is very important, Tom. I can have all these different items, but to get something accomplished in 2 years, you have to focus very heavily. Now, truly speaking, I don't know what that is. Once we get in there in Washington, once we start talking to more and more people, we will figure it out. We have a good agenda, we have a good policy. Now it's a question of what we can focus on. And perhaps the focus is going to be upon our economy and the inflation, that the supply chain issues bring jobs back. Maybe that's my focus, to bring the semiconductor industry back to the Bay Area and create a much more of a vibrant economy, because we are going downhill right now. Perhaps that would be my focus. And 2 years' time, when I write a candidate statement running for 2024, I would talk about all the number of jobs that I have brought back to the Bay Area to create an economy that is vibrant, to create jobs for the common man. This is what I would like to do.
I love it. I love it, Rishi. Well, thank you so much for coming back to the Nerd Zone second time. And now you are definitely, it sounds like it might be a coin toss in terms of whether you can win, which is super exciting. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Best of luck to you on the trail. And with that, we'll say goodbye, nerds.
Goodbye, nerds. Thank you so much, Tom. It was a pleasure. Really
See you,
appreciate
Rishi.
it.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was Rishi Kumar. Impressive dude. I remember when I interviewed him last time, he didn't make it, but his opponent is definitely not as strong as she used to be. And I think the climate is one for people who are ready for some change. Even if they're Democrats, I think they want to see some new Democrats. So check out Rishi Kumar. I'm going to probably create a profile for him on OTP on ofthepeople.us. So go approval vote him as well. I'll put a link in the details and description below. Before I say goodbye, I do want to thank the people who make this podcast possible. Those are our channel members. And if you're not a member and you're watching this on YouTube, just click that join link. It starts at a couple bucks a month, helps us cover the cost, mainly for our podcast hosting fees and some of our used to be streaming costs, but those are now covered by StreamYard, our streaming sponsor. So thank you, StreamYard. But it covers the podcast costs, and it kind of helps contribute to some of the development of the people. So appreciate all the help there. Who is our biggest member? Well, let's take a look. It is none other than Soldier One, our senior vice president. So thank you, Soldier One, for your support for the Nerds for Humanity show. At the VP level, we have Kristen Slevin, Bike, and Stephen Jones. So thank you to our VPs, Kristen, Bike, and Stephen. Hardcore. We have Gene, David, DK, Jekalego, Kirsch, Mr. History, Mona, Susan, Vaughn, Yang, Tony, Robert, Dean, Stat, Galessa, Jay Perrin, AH, Jay Bryan, Dana, Jason, Parth, and Daniel. Daniel's the guy that helped us get that StreamYard sponsorship. And then at our entry level, in order of who's the oldest in terms of longest support for Nerds for Humanity, you've got Lisa, Albert, Brandon, Peter, Arez, your mom, and Sophia, Mike, Jadwiga, Doris, Emerald, Ben, Rasta, James, Emma, Elizabeth, Way, Ira, Shoni, Jameson, Dr. William, Karen, Ardent, Zemery, Mai, Brittany, Alexandra, Juana, Warren, Lucky, Heaven, Nell, Toby, and Walter. And it looks like we have some new members joining. So let's look at who is our youngest and our oldest Nerds for Humanity supporters. The newest members are Walter TX, Toby, the Nija player, and Daniel Battelle. And our longest supporters are Lisa Childress, Jean Lim, and Kristen Slevin. So thank you for supporting the Nerd Show. And if you go here to ofthepeople.us, we will soon add Rishi. But let's see who is of the people.us. Who's trending right now? Stephen Houlihan. Ooh, Greg Tanaka. He came close. Rose Yee, Luis Rivera, and Corey Hepela. So check out these candidates on ofthepeople.us. I'll add Rishi so you can approval vote him as well. And with that, we'll see you next time. All right, nerds? Bye, nerds.